Hello everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today we are going to talk about another very important topic, but we'll start with some quick thought exercises for you. The first exercise is, say we have a bat and a ball that cost in total $1.10. The bat costs $1 more than the ball. What is the price of the ball? Hit the pause button and take 30 seconds to think about the answer. Are you done? Chances are that your answer is 10 cents. Well, let me tell you that is not the correct answer. Let's do another thought exercise. Say we want to figure out if drinking coffee is good for us or not. How do we generally go about these things? We go to our friend Google, who knows it all, right? And then we Google reasons for drinking coffee. That would get many articles, including lots of scientific literature that backs drinking coffee. And we'll see reasons like it improves our cognitive functions and we get less depressed, and it helps with longevity as well. Reading all of these, you think like, wow, I should start drinking lots of coffee every day. And then you Google reasons not to drink coffee. You will find, again, scientific literature telling you that there are many valid reasons to not drink coffee. For example, it causes anxiety. It can make your teeth appear yellower, and it can have impact on your cardiovascular health. So you're like, wait a minute, then I shouldn't be drinking coffee. So what should you really do? Should you drink coffee or shouldn't you drink coffee? Is it good or is it bad? We'll come back to it later. Now, the third and more relevant example, similar to the coffee one, would be the case of getting vaccinated or not. So there have been people who are pro-vaccines and there are still people holding back. How should we really decide? Is it based on all the social media news or the random article and WhatsApp post that you get sent by your relatives? Is that what you should use to make your judgment and form your opinion on vaccines? No, that's not the right way. The answer to these questions is by using critical thinking. What is really critical thinking? First of all, critical thinking is definitely not about criticizing others. It is about using logic and reasoning when making decisions. It is about not reacting from a place of emotions. Emotions are important, but they shouldn't be used as triggers to make decisions and form opinions and judgments. It's about thinking about thinking. It helps us to navigate the world because, for example, when we are communicating with others, we need to understand what is fact and what are opinions. In today's world, we need to be able to separate fake news from real news, because what is really fake news? Fake news is something that is either not totally true or where someone is holding deliberately part of the information to mislead the readers or the viewers. And in today's world where more and more fake news is being manufactured on a daily basis, it has become more important to have the critical thinking abilities. Now let's look at some other reasons why it's really important. When you think critically, you challenge what's given, and while doing so, you come up with new and better solutions. This is one of the reasons it's a very hot skill in the job market. And also when you're thinking critically, you come up with better decisions, and better decisions lead to a much higher quality of life because decisions impact our future. Also, when we develop the critical thinking muscles, we become more empathetic. We start listening to what they have to say. Now that we know what it is, why it's important, let's look at some of the ways we can develop this muscle. The first step is to start by understanding how we really think. How do we make decisions? There is an awesome book on this called Thinking Fast and Slow, where the Nobel Prize winner in economy, Daniel Kahneman, takes us on an awesome journey, on a tour of our mind, and he tells us about the inner workings. He tells us that we have system 1 and system 2. So system 1 is the fast, intuitive system, that it's our mode of thinking that's more intuitive and irrational. It's what allows us to understand if from someone's voice, if there is hostility. If I say bread and, what do you think? Butter, right? So that's system 1 coming up with the sentence completion. And also if I say 2 by 2, the answer comes up from system 1. That's the fast system. And then there is system 2. System 2 is the slow, deliberate, reasoning based system that takes its time to come up with answers based on reason and logic. System 2 allows us to answer more complicated questions like, say if I were to ask you 17 by 43, that's not something that you can answer unconsciously, right? Or whenever we need to do things that are not on autopilot. If, for example, if you're driving on autopilot, you're a pro driver, you can do it using system 1. But if, let's say, you have to park a car in a very narrow space, then you have to use your system 2. Or even when doing taxes, that's when we use system 2. Generally, system 1 takes associations and metaphors to come up with a quick and dirty answer, while system 2 is based on beliefs and reason. The thing is that besides being slow and deliberate, system 2 tends to be lazy as well. As long as system 1 is able to come up with a coherent story and says, hey bro, I got it, system 2 says, okay, I'll sit back and relax, you do the job. But this means that system 1 often comes up with the wrong answers. Let's look at 3 shortcuts that system 1 takes. The first is replying to simpler questions. For example, when we have to think about something that is too complicated for if we are thinking about investing in a company. So should I invest in it or not? System 1, instead of going and taking facts and data to come to the conclusion, it would say, do I like this company or not? So it replaces the difficult question with a more simple question. And then it answers the simple question. If I answer the simpler question, do I like this company? Yes, it will say, okay, yes, let's go and invest in it. Otherwise, no. Another shortcut that system 1 takes is called halo effect. This is a shortcut taken when evaluating people. We tend to use one trait or one encounter we have had with someone to like or dislike everything about them. For example, if there is an athlete and they are good looking, then system 1 says, you know what, they are probably the best on the ground as well in their field. That's not necessarily true because you haven't had the chance to observe them play, right? But that's the shortcut that it's take. And similarly, in any other situations, if you have observed anyone based on one characteristic, you will use that to make the whole story about them. That's why first impressions are really important. By the way, a tip: whenever you are going for job interviews, try to make great first impressions, because if you manage to do that, then the interviewer will think that you are a better candidate for the role as well. A third shortcut is what you see is all there is. In this, system 1 uses a few data points to make the full story. So it doesn't say that, hey, you know what, it seems like I don't know some other facts. It says, as long as I can make a coherent story using the data points available, that's sufficient. Now that we know about System 1 and System 2 and some of the shortcuts that System 1 tends to take, instead of making the easy, intuitive decisions that make us even feel more competent, we can hit pause and try to understand if we are falling in the trap of one of the shortcuts by System 1. The second step in improving our critical thinking muscle is learning to analyze. Because now that we know about the shortcuts and we have hit pause, we need to analyze the situation, right? Analyze the problem at hand. How can we do that? And that is by asking more questions and asking better questions. Let's go back to our coffee example. Is coffee good or bad is a very generic question. That's why we come up with contradictory claims and that are all backed by science. For example, are we asking, is coffee good for sleep? Or are we saying, is coffee good for feeling more energized? Because different question will lead you to a different answer. Are we talking about the effects of coffee on short term or over the years? Are we talking about 1 cup of coffee a day, or are we talking about 10 cups a day? So analyzing the problem better and asking more questions helps us to develop the skill. Now let's do another simple exercise. Think of something someone told you recently, and now ask yourself these questions. Who said it? Someone who you know, or was it a figure of authority? Does it really matter who said it? What did they say? Was it facts or was it opinions? How did they say it? What was their tone of voice? When did they say it? Was it before or after an important event? Does the timing of what they said matter? How did they say it? Were they happy? Were they sad? Or were they just indifferent? Building up on this is our third skill, and that is to be an active listener. How many times has it happened that when someone is telling you something, you're already formulating the response, especially when we want to impress someone and come up with a great answer, we are already thinking about what to say next. And in doing so, actually, rather than coming up with a better answer, we are not listening to what they have to say. So if we don't really listen, how can we come with a better response? So that's a bad thing to do. When we listen actively, we develop better communication skills. Also, we appear more charismatic because there is value in being heard. For example, if someone is telling you something, you listen attentively and then you repeat what they said to make sure you understand, they'll feel like you are a very charismatic person because you really listen to them. Once we have listened, the third step is to come back, but without any arguing and no negativity, no negative communication. Say no to that because there is no value in it. Whether someone is right or wrong, whether you agree with them or not, arguing and coming from a place of anger or just attacking them leads to nowhere. If anything, the only thing it does, it leads to damaged relationships and nowhere gets out of it in a better state. So stay away from that because that definitely doesn't lead to critical reasoning. It's not part of critical thinking. The fifth step is to become more self-aware because that is what allows us to understand that we are not always right and to develop the humbleness to accept that others might be right as well. And besides that, it allows us to understand our emotional triggers. So self-awareness is about understanding where your values are coming from. How do they reflect in your thoughts? What are your weaknesses? What are your strengths? What are your likes and dislikes? And thinking about these things in an objective manner. And what are your beliefs? Like, what is the source of your beliefs? Why do you believe in certain things? Emotions can tell us a lot about ourselves. For example, anger is just not an irrational emotion. We can use it to understand ourselves better. More often than not, when we react with anger, it's because something that we feel important is challenged. We perceive threat. So when we understand better why we are reacting angrily towards certain things, it allows us to take control next time we are in such situations. The sixth step is to get outside your bubble. Because we tend to group ourselves with people who think like us, who act like us. This is especially a problem in the online world because social media algorithms tend to tailor our feeds based on our beliefs, our values, things we like. So it seems like if you, for example, are into cars, they'll start showing you everything about cars. If you have certain political views, they'll start showing you more and more content that affirms those views, or any other thing, right? So they'll start recommending you people who think like you. And in doing this means that those bubbles become narrower and narrower, and there is the risk that our views become more polarized because we tend to never get exposed to things outside that bubble. And we believe that's what everyone in the world is believing, or that's the view that they have as well. But it's just our world, it's our online world, and it's not the perspective that everyone else has. To get outside and get yourself exposed to different views so that you can get different perspectives about things and challenge your own views as well, so that you can develop better beliefs and develop better critical thinking, and you can say no to any wrong values or beliefs or things that have been detrimental or that are hindering your success. You can start interacting with people who are diverse from you, and both in terms of thought and collaboration, start working with people different than you, or even start making with friends from different countries, different ethnicity, or just simply by making friends with people from different career backgrounds. For example, if you're in tech, start interacting more with people with arts backgrounds, or people say who are in filmmaking or anything else, say who are just different than you. Last but not the least, the seventh step is curiosity. Yes, system one loves to take shortcuts. It loves to make a coherent story based on whatever data it has available. But on the other side, we are naturally born curious as well, right? We think about children. They love asking, why is this? Why is that? And then again, why, right? So we have that natural curiosity to go deeper. But as we age, we tend to lose that. We can take some lessons from the genius Leonardo da Vinci, who was just awesome at asking great questions. He was immensely curious about the little things in the world around him. He would question everything from why the sky is blue to the why does the tongue of an animal look a certain way, to everything that he observed around him. So I'm not saying you'll become the next Leonardo da Vinci, but at least we can learn from him to be more aware of the world around us so that we can ask more, develop better curiosity. This will lead you to a more joyful life as well, and not just develop critical thinking muscle, because you'll appreciate life more. To conclude our topic today, I would just like to say that in a world where fake news spreads like wildfire, it's like gossip on steroids. Next time you're about to hit that share or retweet, just pause for a second and ask yourself, is it actually real or is it fake news? And even if it's real, ask yourself, can it hurt someone? If so, stop yourself and don't need to spread that news. And also, I'd just like to say that traditional thinking is not made for the world we live in anymore. So do invest in skills that are important to thrive and succeed in the 21st century. If you found this video insightful, don't forget to like and subscribe so that I can keep coming up with more useful content for you, and do share it with your friends or family or your network who might benefit from it as well, because as to say, sharing is caring. I'll see you next time. Until then, keep learning and stay awesome.